Asking you shall receive. Last week when we talked about the game of the week, Chiefs at Ravens, I begged for Lamar Jackson to make this a rivalry. First movie quote of the day is Mike Epps' Day from Friday After Next. Bam, we got action. The plot thickens when it comes to the AFC's hierarchy and power structure. What did you think of that show they put on last night, Michael?
Oh, I thought a lot of the show they put on last night, and I'm glad you called it that. It was show enough for show. It was great. And when I was watching it, Mike, I thought of you saying, hey, Lamar, you got to win this. Even though it's not Patrick Mahomes versus Lamar Jackson, you got to win one of these games because he was 0-3, now 1-3. But the other thing I thought of was this is what it takes to beat Kansas City. I mean, you think about it. You know, Baltimore, he talked about the monkey being off their back. I don't think he was talking about the 0-3 record versus Kansas City as much as he was talking about being winless on the season and getting their first win of the season. But when you beat Kansas City, the blowout in the Super Bowl, relative blowout in the Super Bowl was rare. People just don't beat Kansas City like that. If you're going to beat Kansas City, it's going to take everything you have, so much so that your next game might be affected because you exhausted so much just to get at least one more point more than the Kansas City Chiefs, which is what Baltimore did last night. So this is what it takes. They did it one time. Is it sustainable? That's the big question. But a nice start.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, though.
We ain't going to the
That
Super
doesn't
Bowl.
matter. That doesn't matter.
Oh, it does matter.
This
Yes,
is
it does.
This is not just a week 2 game at home that doesn't mean anything in the grand scheme of things. This does not mean this is not about well, part of it is avoiding 0-2. This is look, I know Lamar has won a playoff game. And that's the ones that really matter. But right now, this is the biggest win of Lamar Jackson's career. Full stop. Easily. It's the biggest win of his career. Because I'll go Predator on you. I'll go Predator. If it bleeds, we can kill it. And what they did last night was they stopped the inevitable. They served notice, not just externally, not just to Kansas City, because if you're the Chiefs right now, you're looking at it like, look, if Clyde Edwards-Helaire holds on to the ball, Bucker's kicking a field goal, we getting out of there with a win. Okay? If you're the Chiefs right now, you're looking at it like, yo, it was 35-24. How we go scoreless the rest of the way? Like, we don't blow leads. We overcome leads. We don't blow leads. So if you're the Chiefs, you're like, okay, you know what? If you're Patrick Mahomes, for the first time in your life or in your professional life, you've lost the game in September and thrown an interception in the month of September in your career. So if you're the Chiefs, that flight home was, you're fine. You're like, you know what? All right, that's on us. We gave that one away. But if you're the Ravens, you serve notice to yourself, because I don't care what they were saying all last week. I don't care what Lamar Jackson was saying. That's what I was saying to you. I don't care what Lamar Jackson was saying. They knew that they had to slay that dragon. They knew that they had to kill those aliens. And when the game started the way it did, with Lamar throwing 2 interceptions to Honey Badger, with the Chiefs, you want to talk about, like, unfair. They wasn't lighting it up to Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce or Clyde Edwards-Helaire. They were throwing it to Pringle and Demarcus Robinson and freaking Blake Bell and Jerick McKinnon was. I mean, there was like 9, 10 different people was catching balls. It's like, this is just crazy. But the Ravens last night showed, yo, we got a cheat code too. And Lamar did what he had to do, because it's no different than every other great player or every other great team. Like, once you do something, like, you can always draw back on it. Michael Jordan used to always say, once I hit that shot against Georgetown, I could take every shot after that and not care whether I made or missed it. If you are the Baltimore Ravens, and the Chiefs are usually the team to overcome deficits. The Chiefs are inevitable. The Chiefs are the ones that seem like they can't be beaten or can't be stopped. And no matter how you did it, you stopped them. That's huge for their psyche. I don't know if that's why you were pointing to your head, but this was psychological warfare, and they survived this last night. This is huge for them going forward. Because now, if they would have lost the game, they would have sat up there, Lamar would have sat up there last night and said, hey, it's just one game, we're 0-2, we got to move on to Detroit, you know, like, our season's not over, you know, it's not about me versus, they'd have said all the right things. But you knew by the way they reacted last night that meant more than 1-1. That was more than avoiding 0-2. Beating Kansas City, if you ever gonna get where you're trying to go, you got to go through them, and that's a huge step forward. a major step forward.
Well,
because like I was
that's the
saying
only
last
thing.
week, if not now, when? You got to do it in order to do it. You got to prove to yourself and
Yeah.
them that you can do it. So now they know they're not the only ones with a cheat code. You got Lamar Jackson.
You were about to be unanimous. I was about to unanimously, well, not unanimous. I was about to give you like a 97% agreement rate.
I'll take it.
Until you said you have to go through Kansas
Rotten
City.
Tomatoes?
Until you said you have to go through them. Look, Kansas City, I think, is the best team in the AFC. Now, I'm not saying they're the best team by far and that nobody can see them. I don't feel that. I just feel like if you're going to deal with them, you just better not have an off day. You can't have an off day and then beat Kansas City anyway. Just like Kansas City, though.
Look,
Kansas City,
you know how the brackets
have an
fall.
off day and win by a point, right? So
You know how the
Baltimore
brackets
may
fall.
not
They may not
necessarily-
see them in the playoffs. They may not see them.
Right.
Like
So that's not
Kansas
it.
City could not get 100%. But they're the class of the conference, right? You'd agree with that?
Yeah, I think they are. And the reason I'm pointing to my head, you're right, is knowing that you did it, knowing that you
Knowing
got it
is half
done.
the battle.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing. That's great. But it's not like, well, let me look back. Oh, okay, put it this way. There are some victories where you say, if we do that again, if we play like that, nobody can touch us, including Kansas City. Well, this wasn't one of those games. Like, as a matter of fact,
It didn't
if
have to be.
Baltimore does that again, it does.
Oh wait,
It's not like
no.
it's
We're not doing it.
well,
We're
hold
not
on.
doing it
I'm
like
just telling
9
you.
times out of
You're
10 they don't win
saying-
that game thing, are we?
What I'm saying, what we're doing is you're saying, hey, now that Baltimore has done it, you're making a Michael Jordan comparison and all that stuff. I think we may be going too far. Baltimore beat Kansas City by a point in a game where Lamar Jackson threw a touchdown pass, had 2 interceptions, and they were down by 11. What I'm saying is that's not the model. That's not the formula to follow. You follow that formula again, and you probably lose by 20 or 25. So it's not like there's a relief.
Respectfully,
There's a relief
that's
of winning
like-
the game. Well, hold on. Wait. There's a relief of winning the game. I just want to say this. There's a relief of winning the game. That's legit. Yes. Finally, 1-3 versus Kansas City. We won't have to hear this trash no more. But there is no relief from, that's off the. We can check that box. We know how to deal with Kansas City. Not necessarily. Not necessarily.
Well, okay. Respectfully, they know that. Also, respectfully, that's irrelevant. Like I'm hearing you, I'm listening to you, but I ain't hearing you on this one because I'm like, if you're, I don't think when you're playing at Kansas City or really when you're playing at anybody right now, you're looking at the things you could do better. Of course you are. Everybody is. Win or lose, everybody's saying. Even Tom Brady, who we'll get to later, 5 touchdown passes at 44 years old in year 22. Tom Brady, like I could be better, right? We'll come to that later though. But what I'm saying about the Ravens is. The model to beat Kansas City is to, wait for it, outscore Kansas City. However you get to do that, whatever the circumstances are, you will take it. There is no model to beat them like you're talking about. You're saying you got to play a perfect game to beat Kansas City. Clearly, you don't have to play a perfect game to beat Kansas City. They did not play a perfect game. The Ravens didn't, and they still managed to survive against Kansas City. That's why I use the Predator quote, if it bleeds, we can kill it. It's about survival when you play Kansas City. It is about weathering the storm when you play Kansas City. You're not going to go out and just dominate Kansas City. I mean, again, like you said, the blowout in the Super Bowl was such an aberration. That's not how it goes when you play them. And usually when you think you got them blown out, they're only a couple of plays away from coming back. So if you're Baltimore, you're going in the film room, you're going to the lab saying, yes, we got some areas that we got to improve on. And yeah, we got out of there with a 1-point win. And if not for such and such, it could have gone the other way. All fair. But that pales in comparison to the confidence you now have knowing that you can come back from a deficit against Kansas City. You can be the people coming back versus being the victims of a comeback. And you cannot play your perfect game, despite all the gaudy numbers from Lamar Jackson, both passing and rushing. Fourth career game with 200 passing yards and 100 rushing yards. Nobody else is even close to that. You know what I mean? He's one of a kind. All right, for all the great things he did last night, Lamar's probably thinking about those 2 interceptions, saying, hey, I can't always get away with that.
Right.
But what this gives you is knowing that when it's not your best day, Like you don't have to bring your absolute best to beat them. You beat them when it's not your best day. That's a double win for them. That's a win in the score column, and that's a win psychologically for Baltimore. That's not to say that the next time they play,
hey, listen, hey,
it doesn't have to be sustainable.
Okay,
it's still significant. Even if it's not sustainable, it's significant. The next game will probably go differently. But if you're Baltimore, you know that you can beat them. Before yesterday, you thought you could. Now you know you can. You may have believed you could. Now you know you can. Doesn't matter what I believe. It matters what I could prove. Okay? It's not what you know. Okay. It's what you can prove. And they proved last night that they can beat Kansas City. That's huge, regardless of if you want to nitpick their performance or not.
Okay, I'll tell you this, Mike. We have, thankfully, 1 year in running, 1 year in counting into the Brother from Another program. Let's call it a program. We got a lot of people who check us out. They listen on Sirius Channel 211. They check us out on Peacock TV. Watch us on YouTube. They listen as a podcast. They do all kinds of things. They consume us in a lot of ways. And so our audience is quite diverse. I think we have some psychologists in our audience. And I think psychologists call what you just described from Baltimore, your theoretical from Baltimore, hey, if we can do that, hey, we don't have to play our best and we can still win. That's called deluding yourself. You are deluding yourself, Baltimore.
I'm delusional.
If you think you can go out there, and do that, hey, we can win like that. You can't do that. You do that again, you're gonna have your feelings hurt. You're gonna be trampled.
Okay.
You're down by 40 points.
Okay. Mike,
don't do that again.
There's one word that you haven't used. We 13 minutes in, and there's a word you haven't used.
Yes.
But you insinuating it. You implying it, or at least I'm inferring it. You said everything and stopped just short of saying they was lucky. That's what you really want to say. They got lucky. That's what you really want to say. You know what? They're lucky.
Good.
They didn't deserve to win. They didn't deserve to win. Kansas City put the bed.
No, I didn't say that.
That's what you're saying. No, that's what you're saying. That's what I'm hearing.
I hate that phrase.
That's what I'm hearing.
First part.
I can hear Jimmy, and that's what you're saying. That's what you're saying. Like, that was a fluke. Call it a fluke.
It was lucky. It was flukish. Whether they deserve to win.
First thing on a Monday.
Who am I to say?
You can't get through one segment without hating.
Who am I to say whether they deserved it or not? I mean, okay, you won the game.
Got nothing
Anybody
to do
who
with
wins
it.
the game, right? Anybody who wins the game deserves to win it. But is it lucky? Yes, it was lucky. I'll say it this way: what is the likely outcome? What's the likely outcome when your quarterback throws 2 interceptions against Kansas City? When you go down by 11 to Kansas City in the second half, what's the likely outcome?
Before last night?
Likely,
Before last
likely
night,
to lose.
it was a loss. But they didn't. They didn't. They came
before
back.
Last night and after last night. Do it again. Do it again, and we'll see what happens. It's all about consistency.
That's whack. That's whack of you. So the only way you be impressed by Baltimore last night is either come out and run for 400 yards, and Lamar would have thrown for 300 yards, and they'd have shut Kansas City out. They'd have shut. That's what would have impressed you. You great. This is style points for you.
I didn't say. No, wait. I didn't. No, you're going in different directions. I didn't say I wasn't impressed. I was impressed by certain things that happened in that game from Baltimore's perspective, and I was rooting for Baltimore in the game. Don't ask me why I was rooting for Baltimore. That's none of your business. But I was rooting for Baltimore to win the game.
Okay.
And that happened. So I'm not putting any. I'm not casting any judgment on them. I'm just saying big picture.
No, you're casting aspersions.
Baltimore.
What you're doing.
Here's a great thing about Baltimore. Unlike some of these organizations, some of these no-count organizations, ragtag, cheap, sorry organizations, Baltimore is all about winning. It is judged, that organization is judged by championships. It has a championship
One of the premier
standard.
franchises
So
in the
winning,
league.
as Lamar Jackson said, he's absolutely right. Come on, y'all. We ain't win the Super Bowl. It's week 2. We beat Kansas City. That's great. But that's not really what we're playing for. And so
no.
If I go by the Baltimore standard, great. Good job last night in September. But in January, February, that's not good enough.
Yeah, I'm not going to let you downplay this. I'm sorry. I'm not going to let you downplay this. Because if it goes the other way, If it goes the way it
Very
was looking like it was
entertaining
going when
game,
Travis
though.
Kelce was going through the defense, if it goes the other way, everybody, including you, is saying, Baltimore, you ain't about that life. Baltimore cannot be taken seriously. Lamar Jackson wants this
Never said
contract, and Baltimore wants to be considered
my
a contender.
Ravens.
Baltimore, if you can't
My
beat
Ravens.
Kansas City, you cannot be taken seriously. That's what you and everybody else would have been saying today. So they go out and win, but they don't run away with it. Like, exactly how are you supposed to beat Kansas City? You've already said that the Super Bowl was an outlier. That's not how you beat Kansas City. Well, they don't lose very often, so tell me what a win over Kansas City is supposed to look like in a perfect world. How is it supposed to look exactly? Supposed to win by 20?
Well, there's no.
Not turn it over at all? They get paid
there's
too,
no-
as they say.
Well. Look, you get it any way you can. I agree with that. You get it any way you can.
That's all I'm saying.
But understand, but that's not, okay, that's one sentence. Next paragraph, or same paragraph. Get it any way you can. Congratulations. However, comma, if you try to duplicate that, it's going to be a problem. It's not going to work. So just know.
I don't think they're going to go in and say, let's fall behind by 11. I don't think that's part of their next game plan. If they see each other again, let's fall behind by 11. Let's throw 2 picks in the first quarter. They got things they could do better, and certainly Kansas City knows that they got things that they need to clean up. Otherwise, we may be having a different conversation.